have heard recently the governor's announcement about the Lighthouse sectors. That was some work actually that was driven by the Maryland Economic Development Council in collaboration with the Department of Commerce. And so we're going to talk about what those Lighthouse sectors mean across the entities of Commerce, DHCD, from the MEDC's point of view, and then from our friends at MEDCO. Fair enough? So, Tom, I'll start with you, my friend. And this is for all of you. Tell us the one thing that makes Maryland special, particularly for our entrepreneurial community that's sitting here today.
For the entrepreneurial community? Well, for me, it has everything. Maryland has everything that I love. Family, our farm, kids' activities. But why is that? It's because it has everything that you need to really thrive and kind of any direction you can take your life in, that you can do that. And for an entrepreneur, I would think it's pretty much the same. You know, world-class institutions, all the great assets. The recreational amenities, I think, are things that go really unappreciated. But as I'm traveling statewide, my daughter had a regular season soccer game 2 hours away the other day, which that puzzles me. But on our way to these various kid and family related events or cow shows or whatever, we have beef cattle at our farm. You see just amazing things, and you discover some of these things for the first time, and it's all here within Maryland. So whether it's the greatest idea for a new product or a new innovation towards getting products to market, or ways in which to do things in a more efficient manner, you can connect so easily with the right people within Maryland's ecosystem. And I think that's a real critical role that TEDCO plays.
Thank you.
Is a convener of such assets and bright minds. So to me, I think just Maryland has it all.
Dana? It works.
I hesitate to correct the host, but I chair the Maryland Economic Development Commission.
Okay, I messed up the C.
Which is different than the council.
Oh, I messed up the C. I did this earlier today with the quanting, you know.
And what I really want to do is explain to you what the Maryland Economic Development Commission does. It was created by statute in the Maryland legislature and designed to oversee the Department of Commerce and to develop economic development policy for the state. In that role, we develop an annual strategic plan where we outline the priorities for economic development in the state. We also oversee or monitor TEDCO and MEDCO. Now, this year's plan identified our priorities based on Maryland's strengths. We have the most aerospace engineers. We have some of the largest computing operations here. We have a number of life sciences facilities and a growing sector. And so we came up with the plan to highlight and focus growth on the lighthouse sectors, as Troy has identified them. I'm not going to go into them in depth because the Deputy Secretary is here to do that. But I basically will just tell you that we established policies around life sciences, technology, aerospace, manufacturing, and distribution and regional activity. That's where we are, and that's why I'm here, because we want to see that those sectors grow. We want to encourage investment into the state of Maryland around those sectors, and we are prepared with the Department of Commerce to invest heavily in the growth of those sectors.
Thank you, Dana. So because of time, I didn't do general introductions, but thank you for that. So again, I think just real quick, you see from the slide, Tom is the CEO, is my counterpart at MEDCO. Dana, MEDCO, if you don't know, does all the real estate development. Has actually taken on some of the more responsibilities here recently, like horse racing. As Dana just told you about the
we build and finance it all, Troy.
There you go. My friend Brad here just stepped into a role with the Department of Housing and Community Development, so does all the housing community development work, and as Ricardo's with Department of Commerce. So just to kind of move along, talk about, for DHCD's perspective, the lighthouse sectors and what they mean for DHCD.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to put a fine point quickly on who I am and why I'm here, I've been here about 3 months, right? So I have the lowest tenure of anyone on the stage. I've been with the Moore administration since Inauguration Day in a different capacity in the governor's office, but now stepped into this role. And I'm the Assistant Secretary of Business Development at DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development. I really focus largely on that CD, that community development side. Right. When we look at our partners, and I'm so thrilled every time I get to be on stage or in a room with the folks across agencies here, because we all have kind of a distinct role, right? We all have a broader mission to make sure that we are a real attraction for these industry sectors and for investment and for entrepreneurship, really from around the country and around the world into Maryland. Where DHCD can come in on that is not necessarily providing money directly to a great new biotech startup, right? Troy's got that handled. And the Department of Commerce is doing all sorts of great work on that front, right? What we're going to do is make sure that the employees that go to work have somewhere to put their child while they're at work by building a childcare facility, or make sure they have somewhere to live near the work and get on a train through a mixed-use development building, right? Or a coffee shop or a bar to hang out at after work. We want to make sure that we're being strategic and aligned with our partners so that it's one concrete strategy. And that as we look to cluster and where we're developing these industry sectors, we're also putting mind to where folks want to live and to work.
So one of the things that the governor did as part of the announcement for the Lighthouse sectors and getting through the work of the MEDC is he's created a sub-cabinet that includes all these entities that Brad just mentioned so that we can better coordinate and work together in attempt to go after these. So Ricardo, Dan already kind of touched on the Lighthouse sectors. Why don't you give our audience a little bit more detail as to what those sectors are and then kind of how commerce is helping to drive those sectors?
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. And also by way of quick introduction, Ricardo Benn, Deputy Secretary with the Maryland Department of Commerce, and the portfolio that I oversee is called our Innovation and Growth, but it touches on two key areas that are represented here. One, our Office of International Investment and Trade, which is really seeking to expand those international relationships, and then our Office of Strategic Industries, which is focused on the development of the Lighthouse.
And by the way,
sectors.
thank you for all the work. For all these international work has been done because of partnership with Commerce. So thank you.
It's our pleasure. So the Lighthouse sectors, right? We call them Lighthouse because they guide us in terms of where we need to go, and that's really a nod to Maryland's maritime history. But there are three of them. The first is life sciences with a specific focus on computational health, computational biology. The second is in aerospace and defense with a specific focus on position navigation and timing. And then the third is technology with a specific focus on quantum, artificial intelligence, and cyber. So just briefly, computational health. When you think about this is really where life sciences meets data science.
Yep.
So we've essentially turned, our focus really is to turn biology into a data problem. So we're looking at where math, algorithms can really help us jumpstart the investments that Maryland already has in its over 2,700 life science companies to the next generation of problems. So we're thinking precision medicine. We're looking at accelerating drug discovery, accelerating new forms of crop yields and the like. Position navigation and timing in the aerospace. If you have ever tried to use your GPS in a parking garage, I think you fundamentally understand the charter of position navigation and timing. Because PNT, as it's called, is really focused on those systems that communicate, synchronize, and time. And they underpin everything from satellite communications to autonomous drones, ships, robotics, advanced manufacturing. And Maryland has all of those attributes in spades. And so when we're focusing on the emerging technologies that, for example, underpin advanced manufacturing in terms of sub-millimeter precision manufacturing, which is critical to aerospace and defense, whether we're looking at maritime applications in terms of the coupling of advanced artificial intelligence with port logistics and maritime applications, all of these tie back to advancements in position navigation and timing. But more importantly, what we're seeing right now is that globally, nations are investing in secure and scalable position navigation and timing because whoever controls timing and location controls global trade. They control the flow of goods, and more importantly, it is a significant source of national competitive advantage. And so from a Maryland perspective, we have a lot of that capability that's resident within the state, but we have a number of partnerships globally that we're investing in. The last lighthouse sector is quantum, which is really an epicenter is found right here at the University of Maryland College Park, right next door in the Discovery District, where we have a number of national champions, including IonQ. But more importantly, thanks to Governor Moore's investment in the Capital of Quantum Initiative, which is a signature public-private partnership, we've really been able to catalyze a number of new relationships, including with DARPA and Microsoft recently announced. So this isn't just about research. If you look at today's revolution really is around artificial intelligence. Tomorrow is around quantum technologies. And so Maryland really is investing in the full quantum technology stack, from quantum communications, quantum sensors, quantum materials. All of these have a role to play, and our state really is globally known as a hub for those capabilities. So when we think about the lighthouses, we're really just building on the capabilities that we have and accelerating the investment in order to catalyze Maryland's economic growth into the future.
I'll come back to a couple of things, but I want to, if I can, shift to Tom. So Tom, he gave us a lot of details there it's what these sectors are, which is great, and I hope people heard that. Again, please give folks a little bit intro to MEDCO, but MEDCO's role in bringing these lighthouse sectors to play.
So, I mean, for context, the MEDCO stands for the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, and we're a special purpose entity that was created 4 years ago to help build and finance projects. We just surpassed $8.8 billion in projects financed over our 40-year history recently, and we did $1.6 billion last year in projects. A lot of those projects are in critical infrastructure, student housing, facilities, things that help expand our maritime and port capabilities, things that help improve the supply chain, support transit-oriented development, meaningful community development. So our role today is to help facilitate the attraction and growth of companies involved and firms involved in these key lighthouse sectors. And a lot of what we're seeing is infrastructure interests. We're building SCIF facilities. We're being asked to consult on...
People know what SCIFs are? Folks know what SCIFs are?
Secure compartmentalized information facilities, things that you do in secure confines where you can share information without the threat of it being stolen, your IP being stolen. And that's important as universities work with federal labs or military installations. Thanks, Troy. But other things that are really critical are things like data centers. I mean, these are just huge job enablers. This is where industry is going. All the work within any of these sectors requires the handling and management and sharing of just so much in the way of data. Talk about quantum and getting down to even these smaller bits. But if we don't have the right infrastructure in place, then we can't be competitive in securing the growth opportunities in these key lighthouse sectors, whether it's from health to manufacturing of widgets. So a lot of our work right now, Troy, is in working with municipalities, local governments, and our state partners on projects where we have the right infrastructure in place to accommodate this growth. A lot of what Brad mentioned earlier is all the opportunities around our transit centers. They haven't been utilized well in the past. So we are partnering with the Maryland Department of Transportation and looking at all these transit hubs all up and down the Baltimore and Penn line and down into along the MARC station, how we can build these kind of communities around key infrastructure. And that's to include right here at College Park or near Bowie State or at UMB or Hopkins. So really leveraging these key assets that we have. They're the reasons why we have these opportunities in these lighthouse sectors, but it requires the right infrastructure in order to facilitate the collaborations and growth that we're really pursuing.
So as I knew was going to happen, time is not on our side. So Dana, quickly, MEDC kind of the role. So MEDC brought the strategy, if you will, to bear. What do you see as the next step for both the MEDC and for Maryland in general? Just some broader question about Maryland. How do we go forward with these lighthouse sectors?
Well, it's important to realize we're on FY26 strategic plan now. We are beginning the implementation through these lighthouse sectors. The next step for MEDC, because it creates policy, not necessarily implements programs, is to evaluate the success of the 26 plan, of the efforts that Commerce is undertaking and MEDCO and TEDCO are undertaking to make sure that we are growing our economy. And when we do that at midterm, we will readjust, reorient, readapt, and go forward on the FY27 plan, which we hope will build on the successes from this first effort.
Brad, I'm going to let you close us out because we've run out of time. DHCD, kind of based on what Daniel said, go forward, kind of what's the thinking for, what are some specific things, particularly for some entrepreneurs here, can think about maybe accessing at DHCD to attack these lighthouse sectors?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've stood up this division of business development at DHCD, we're really looking at what is the whole, right? Like I said, this is one strategy. Everybody here contributes something. We have local governments who do incredible work. We have private sector entities. We have nonprofits. We have regional associations. Folks are doing fantastic work, right? So what we need to look at is where are we not getting there, right? There's a few things that I would mention. One is that if you're a child care facility or if you're providing fresh food access or that's on need that you have in your community, you can always come and see us. More relevant to folks in this room, most likely, is folks that are reaching that next stage, right? Either they are ready to purchase the building that they're operating in or make major renovations. They're planning an expansion and they want to purchase some of their own manufacturing space and move on.
I got to shut you down.
Okay.
My apologies. I knew this was going to happen. So I want to thank Ricardo, Brad, Dana, Tom. My apologies. This could have been a deep conversation, but time was on our side. I think the point is, I think there's a website around some of this. The Commerce has got some more information at the Commerce site, right?
That's correct. business.maryland.gov.
There you go. So check that out.